Welcome back, everyone, from the break. Today we have our final speaker, Rob Gauthier. And Rob is known as the ET Whisperer and is a highly sought-after channeler, radio host, and metaphysical teacher. And today we're going to take you beyond the third and fourth dimensional thinking as Rob brings in the higher dimensional aspects that connect with your higher self in order to assist you with your life's purpose and highest path. And that would be Aridif and Treb, but Aridif is the one that's joining us today.
Yeah, Aridif will be here today.
So everyone, please give a warm welcome to Rob Gauthier. So Rob has had natural psychic abilities since he was a child, and it was in his loneliness that he met one of his most popular multidimensional friends. And what I'd like to do is ask you a little bit about your childhood and tell us how you became a channeler and who these beings are, and how did you know that they were benevolent?
Yeah, that's the tricky part with a lot of people who meet from their higher self or in meditations, worrying about what's benevolent, what's good, what's not. So we'll start off as a kid. I didn't consider myself talented or psychic at all. I just thought I was having fun and doing things kids did. A couple times I saw a person in my room and I talked to her directly. It was an older woman. After I talked to her for a few times, she told me about my mother and a lot of details that I never knew about my mom as a child. My mom had a rough childhood, a rough family life, and there were things that I was told that I had never heard from my mom and dad. I asked my mom about it, and it kind of freaked her out a little bit, and she's like, yeah, it was probably just a dream. You know, sometimes God allows people to have dreams and give you information and insight. So that happened a few times, and there was always a few times where I would sit in my room at night and think I saw someone walk by or someone come in. So that was about the extent of it in my young childhood. It wasn't a whole ton more than that. I got into my teenage years, and when I was about 12, 13, I was out with a couple friends driving, and we saw a UFO, and it wasn't just something that was way off in the distance like I've seen them now. I see them all the time now. But this was very close, probably from me to the end of the room and about 40 or 50 foot in the air. So it was very close, and after that there was something that triggered me. And years later I actually look back at this experience and link the two things. But after that period is when I started getting a lot of trouble in my own life. Started hanging out with the wrong kids and making trouble for everybody. And I was a bad kid from that point forward. Before that, I was a really good kid. Listened to my parents, did what I was supposed to. So after this, I get into my late teens where I have my son. My son has severe cerebral palsy. He's 18, so he doesn't walk, he doesn't talk. He has to be fed, bathed, diaper change, all that stuff. So at that point when he was born, it took me to a level of responsibility that was way different than I ever had to deal with. So that tamed my energy down a lot and tamed my person down a lot. But once he got to about 2 or 3, it was the extent of his disability that I started seeing, and I knew that it wasn't going to be a good thing from my perspective for him to live his life, and for me too, selfishly, I thought about myself, about having to care for him throughout that, and just the worry about this one person I've actually dared to love more than myself become not able to have the things in life that I thought was important, like be able to have his own girlfriends and play football and have kids of his own. So that put me into a bad place mentally, emotionally. I started drug use after I got into a car accident, and I was put on prescription Vicodin. I started taking those. That led into morphine led into heroin led into cocaine. I mean, every kind of drug that was out there. It stopped being a prescription thing and started being a way to get away from that pain that I was dealing with my child. So that happened, and that spiraled out of control, and for about 7 or 8 years I went through the deepest parts of that. At one point, I looked at all the things, and there was one thing I always did that I still did that I was supposed to. I was a horrible person in every part of my life, except for when it came to my son. I made sure he was taken care of and went to school and did all the things he was supposed to. But enough was enough. Sooner or later, I felt this need, and I'd always wanted to quit, but I never could find that energy to really just stop and quit. But one day it was very strong, and at that point, I tried a few different things. I went to a methadone clinic for a while, and that just managed my addiction. In some ways it made it worse, but I wasn't on the street and I wasn't buying other drugs, but I wasn't getting sick, and I kept going for that for a little bit. After that, I finally just said it's time to quit. So I went through the detox at a hospital. They helped. I slept a lot, but finally when I was done, I was free of that. And that's where my real journey started. A few months down the road, I just couldn't understand why everything was so wonderful and beautiful. I'd have to stop my car to take a picture of a sunrise, and that was weird to me. I had never done that throughout my whole life, so that led into me trying to seek a spiritual side of life. I found a spiritualism church where people say we can prove the existence of afterlife by connecting you to people who have died. So I said, okay, that's great. Skeptical, but still I wanted to go see it. All the beauty around me and things taught me that there was something there behind this beautiful, huge planet and wonderful universe. And I met with a guy, and he perfectly gave me all the information about my son without knowing. I wasn't on Facebook with any people from the church. I didn't have mutual friends. The church was 40 or 50 miles away from me, mostly filled with older people. And I wasn't sharing things about my son publicly anyway at that point. So he told me a lot about my son that he couldn't have known. You know, new person to the church, not knowing anyone. And he also told me some things about Native American ancestors from my dad's side of the family. And I had no idea. So I was like, well, this works over here about my son, but this doesn't sound right. My dad was a guy who did our whole family genes. So he said, I think I just did something in our family tree that was similar to that story. And he showed me, and it was right there. It was a woman who had led a battle against people who were trying to encroach on her tribe. So I was a believer. At that point, I was like, there's something to this, you know. I studied with them for a while, and they taught me how to meditate in a general sense, and that took me to one level. And then I started the Monroe Institute Hemi-Sync Gateway Meditations, and that took me to a whole other level. And then I kept going within myself, and in one night, like Michelle said, it was a night that I had a very bad night and felt very disconnected. I was using, I was using a different form of the Hemi-Sync that was just a better form. I took what worked for me, and what didn't, I threw it away. And that's the night that I met my first guide, Treb. And Treb is a scary looking being. He's a reptilian being, and that throws a lot of people off. Reptilian human hybrid. And that's what scared me. And I met him and I talked to him, not for very long the first time. I didn't really want to stick around a lot, but as soon as I started feeling that fear, I got calmed down. And that helped me realize that that might be okay there. We didn't speak long the first time. I just talked to another guy recently too about when I left from that time. I didn't meditate for several days, and at that point in my life I was meditating 3 times a day, sometimes up to 6 hours within the whole day I would meditate, because compared to that drug addiction and that life of emptiness, meditation was like my new drug. So I ended up stopped meditating. I even saw a physician, a family physician at the emergency room. I said I had something happen to me in meditation, and there was mental illness back in my family's line, so my thought was I just got whatever my family got. And the doctor said, no, you know, you're messing with binaural beats. That stuff's messing with your brain. It could cause some things, but you're fine. You seem lucid. You seem to know what's going on. So that led me to meet with Treb. I went back and I talked to him, and there were so many synchronicities. What he was telling me was something that I had never heard before, And it's a lot about what we've been talking today, that your mind is actually what creates everything around you, and that your thoughts and beliefs kind of sculpture that reality. And after a few months with him, I really started seeing other things, because I investigated very deeply into it, and I saw other things that were matching up. I did not want to just take Treb into my experience. At this point, I spent several years on the streets with drug dealers and stuff, so I didn't trust anyone, especially a big lizard. So I go and I always push that boundary with them. I always said, well, explain this, explain it. And if it didn't make sense, I would say, no, explain it more, because that doesn't make sense. And it took me a few months to kind of trust them after I saw the synchronicities. But after that, we spent completely 2 years communicating and connecting in a meditation state. And at that point, the things that I saw that helped show me that what he was telling me was being said in different ways throughout different cultures and times, even thousands of years back. But some of those ways that checked out was channeling. I bumped into Jane Roberts. And when I started, that was the only channeling that you could really check out on the internet a lot. And then there were people like Daryl Anka and stuff who had been doing it. And he was the only one I heard that had dealt with extraterrestrial beings.
Jane channeled the Seth material, correct?
Yes, Seth material. Well, in my perspective, that's probably one of the best channelings out there. That kind of explains how reality works. And then after I saw all these things sync, I asked Treb, can we do this? Can you come through my body and share? Because I didn't trust myself. I'm like, I had the complex that I'm not worthy of being able to share this information, which was a tragedy in itself, and I had to deal with that later. But he said, yes, we can definitely do that. You can speak. I can speak with you. We can speak together. You can do it however you want. So I went and I started learning channeling. There were different online PDFs and a couple audio things, and Treb taught me a ton of techniques. And we started channeling, and that has been for many years now, close to 10 years. And after I met Treb, I did a book with a guy named Jefferson Viscardi, and he was talking to Treb and asked Treb, please bring another being over so we can talk to them and see what their perspective is. And this being, I had heard stories from Treb about for almost the whole time I've known him, probably 6 months after I met him, and he kept calling him Deneb Cygnus, which is the star Deneb in the constellation Cygnus. That's what he referred to him as, because he knew my dumb human brain needed a name to associate with. So after that, when he asked to bring the being in, here comes Aridif, and Aridif is the one you guys will be talking to today, and he is a 6th density Denebian. Their race is called the Ancient Pleiades too, because although they're not in Pleiades, they move from that area over to Deneb, kind of to spread their wings. A lot of beings live in the Pleiades area. Treb said up to a couple thousands of different races live in that whole area that we call Pleiades. So that takes us to today. I've been channeling Aridif more and more, and the more I do, the deeper the connection gets and the better it flows. So I think right now Aridif probably brings some of the more profound information and energy through channel state than I've heard a lot of other people, but I know also I'm highly biased in that. So I like Aridif. He's a cool. He sounds like he's a hard ass, but he really loves a lot. He does.
Well, okay, so your preparation up until this time was lots of meditation and changing something that was pretty strict and had these rules around it, and you created your own way of connecting and everything. How is it that you will connect today? What preparation do you have to do? Do you actually leave and he comes in, and what does that feel like?
With Treb and Aridif, it's slightly different, and with other entities that I've channeled, like Nihal Collective, which is the race that started Treb's race, but it's the whole collective. It's a different process. With Treb, what I'm going to do for my 5 to 7 minutes is breathe and kind of neutralize, And I go through a visualization process, one that Treb and Aridif have shared with a lot of people, where I link my energy into the ground itself. And after I release all the energy from my root chakra, then I bring up earth energy into my body. And that usually takes about 5 to 7 minutes. After that, there's a breathing process where I'm starting just to focus on my chakras to feel them. And when I start vibrating the chakras with my voice, then once all the chakras are in alignment, I try to move them up as quickly as I can until they all rest in my third eye. And at that point, I release it through my crown chakra, and that's where Aridif's energy comes in. So while you're talking to Aridif, I'll be hanging out with Treb, like when I first met him and how I met him in astral state. So someone called it fishing with Treb. So
very cool.
Yeah.
So what does it feel like when your chakras come up out through your third eye? And what does it feel like?
It feels like someone's just vibrating as fast as they can with their hand against your head, but on the inside, if that makes sense. Some of these feelings and experiences are so hard to describe by words because we haven't built a vocabulary for spirit energy work, you know. So
as you were learning to channel, how did you recognize any posers that come to you all acting like they're all love and light, but they actually had a different agenda?
Now that's the problem with a lot of people, a lot of channelers. Discernment is a huge thing for me. I had to learn to trust Treb, and that took 2 years to do it fully. I liked him after a few months, but I trusted him. And that was me seeing that everything he told me, everything he talked about, didn't divide anything. It didn't say this is this and that's this and they're separate. It always brought it together. It didn't give me a less version of what I was thinking or seeing. It gave me more. So that's my discernment tool. Since then, there's an energy that Treb explained to me where when you're linking up to your higher self, a true link to your oversoul and higher self, that's larger energy than any physical being can hold, higher dimensional or not. And when you're aligned with yourself and your intent is good, then you can't bring in negative energies into your body. So that's been my mode, but a lot of people have belief systems that are a little bit dangerous with that because they say, well, I could be possessed, I could be taken over by evil energies. So when the belief's there, the energy possibility is there too. So in that case, I try to tell people to use a protective meditation, a visualization. Usually when you surround yourself with a sphere and you use white light and then you use the higher chakra lights all the way down from your crown to your heart, that's when it locks in really. And then when you put that around your whole body, it acts as a protector. And there's 1,000 different ways to protect yourself energetically through visualizations. And they're all basically linked to your belief. If you say, yes, this will work, then it'll work. If you know it'll work, it'll work. If you think it will, then it might not. But if you know it's going to work, it works. So I don't see any danger in channeling, but I know a lot of people do, and there have been experiences where people had that belief system that allowed these really nasty energies inside their body, and it's rough.
So I think, you know, after you had your, after you healed yourself from your addictions and possibly had a heart chakra opening and part of your higher self come in, I think what you're saying is once you allow your heart to open, you cared for your son unconditionally, that you could only magnetize to you higher beings because you were obviously raising your vibration through love. So tell people who carry a little bit of extra weight why you think that physically, in order to hold an energy of a being, do you think that correlates?
I do with a lot of people. For me, I'm a big guy. Part of that is my vibration when I'm connecting, because I'm a pretty laid back guy. When I'm not with the community, I'm not talking about a lot of the things unless it's me and Kalina, my fiance. We'll talk about it, but besides that, I live life. So I consider myself a really well-grounded person, an individual for the most part. And then when I connect to Treb or Aridif, that goes away. After I'm done channeling, you'll see a difference in my eyes, you'll see a difference in my face. I am way ungrounded, and food is the first thing that grounds me instantly. The heavier, the more dense, the better I ground. So that's part of the perpetuation, but also for my addiction, they always say energy never goes anywhere. Like Michael said earlier, energy never goes anywhere. It has to be transmuted. My addiction was the same way. So I changed my addiction from drugs to addiction to food. And the first 6 months I quit doing drugs, I gained 150 pounds in 6 months. It was just blew up crazily. And after that, when I see emotional energy going up and down in my life, I see my weight correlating with that too. My father passed away in the end of 2015, and right before then I had lost 50 pounds in like 6 months. And as soon as I had to deal with that emotional energy, I had to ground myself again more and more. So it's definitely correlates to the high vibrations that you bring in. And for me, part of it's also an emotional thing, you know, an emotional energy link. So.
But just because you carry extra weight doesn't mean you're low vibrational.
Oh, no, no.
And so how does that, what do you do to your food? If you can eat a hamburger, what do you do to be able to keep a high vibration and eat a grounding food like meat?
Kalina and I were very impressed that you blessed all the food, because we do that too as often as we think about it in the moment. Food is energy, intake of vibration, and our beliefs play a big part. It's funny, when I first started my relationship with Kalina, I didn't think about my food. It wasn't an energy that I thought about. She connected to me and showed me more, and then I started noticing the more bad foods I ate, the more weight, because my mind was going there that these foods are bad. So I tried to pull back some of that, and that worked too, and then I started losing weight. So blessing the food is great. Knowing what your body wants is probably the best thing. When I do that, that's when I'm at my healthiest weight. That's when I feel the best. Listening, you know, if your brain says I want a cheeseburger, you know, there might be a benefit to that in there. Kalina herself, she was a vegetarian and vegan for the whole first part of her life, until she had an emotional energy and all she could think about is eating fish. So she ate the fish, and then that craving went away and she went back to the vegetables. So it's all about personal energy, I think, and a lot of people do get judged right off the bat from their weight, and that's I don't think it's fair or a good thing, but I understand why people do it.
Well, I think it has to do with your galactic history. I mean, with Treb being a reptilian, they're meat eaters, right?
Yes. Treb's race moved away from that, but they originally did do, yes. They originally
So that's in your
meat.
DNA, because I consider Treb to be a higher aspect of you in another realm, another frequency, another lifetime, or whatever. So that's another, you know, I bring this up because there is a lot of judgment in the spiritual and metaphysical communities about, you know, being vegan and about eating meat. And, you know, the fact is, when you look at things from a higher perspective, we're living in a holographic projection. So, you know, and the animals giving their lives for the humans is part of the holographic projection. And I think in the future, as we become more conscious of the fact that that's just part of our projection, we can change it to where we don't have to eat meat. But right now, we're dealing with not only our own stuff coming up and healing ourselves, but also for the collective. I don't know if any of you have been healers for the collective, but something will hit you and you'll be like, this isn't mine, but I got to work through it. And when you're done, and you've, you know, basically done a lot of work. So I understand, and I give you the highest praise for talking about it today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So tell me what these beings say about oneness and how we are connected.
Treb comes at a much more emotional rate, which is weird for a reptilian being, but he comes in at a very emotional. When you feel the connection, you can be a part of it. When you train yourself to connect to others' personalities and other energies, that can help you. But Aridif's much more technical. He wants to show you how you're connected and all the intricacies of the oversoul and higher dimensional energies. both of those are useful. Emotional people need emotional teachings, and mental people need mental teachings. So they're both really good at bringing you back to the fact that universal consciousness is just that. We're all a part of it. Treb described one time that when he was talking about a race that still had a god and still had the idea of God as a deity. Excuse me, before I channel, my throat chakra always gets super
And he knows
crazy.
that he knows it's coming quick.
Oh,
right
yeah.
after this question.
It's his energy coming through real strong.
Ready to answer.
He's ready to go. He likes me.
Oh yeah, he loves it. He explained to me that society saw God as a physical body, just like our body, and that each universe was a cell, and each part of the smaller cell was different galaxies, and all the way down to the atomic structures, which were below atomic structures. But think in human terms of the smallest form we understand, and that would be the personal, the fractal consciousness that is the personalities we walk with. And each time you go up, more consciousness gets added until there's a whole body. And that's basically how Treb and his race would perceive if they still had a god deity. But that's the example they give for us to understand a little better of how intricately we're all connected and how we affect one another. You know, if you stab your finger, it's going to bleed, and those cells communicate with each other. So it's very similar archetype.
So tell me, has Treb actually convened and connected or merged with his higher self?
Treb says he's almost there. It's the way Treb and Aridif describe it is if you're in a physical body, you're not fully integrated. That's part of being physical. The journey, the evolution of the soul is to completely reintegrate with all the parts of yourself. So Treb would be like at 55%, maybe around there, and then Aridif, he's on his way out. He won't be in physical reality much longer, not in our much longer, but in their much longer. So he's like at 85 to 95%.
And is that because you've raised your consciousness and that allows them to raise them to the next level?
Yeah, it's all one and the same, and that's why I'm able to communicate with Treb and Aridif, because I've got my vibration as high as I could as the human version I was to allow me to connect with that energy too. So it's all three in alignment.
And so what would you say was the biggest thing that you did, to raise your vibration? You can read all kinds of articles out there. You can pay people thousands of dollars to teach you how to meditate or how to do this or how to do that. But what was the most thing that you did to raise your vibration to that level?
And as corny as it sounds, it was being myself. I had negated a lot of that for a long time because I had to be this or I had to be that. I had to do this. But being myself, that's the overall answer. The exploring of that took me much longer than after meeting Treb and Aridif, and I'm still exploring. We all are. So,
and having to be
yourself.
a dad, being a dad.
Loving another thing more than myself was definitely the
That's
motivator
cool.
of all that energy, for sure.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, let's meet Aridif. I'll
Let's
give
do
you a
it.
few minutes.
All
okay?
right. Greetings to all, this is Aridif, that is A-R-I-D-I-F, and this is its spell. We understand all of you have many queries for this day, but before diving in to those queries, we must express two things. First, in our own perspective, that you are loved is of the utmost importance. It is not just that we love you. It is not just that Michelle loves you. It is not just that entities around the universe love you, but the universe itself is that love. If you embrace, if you allow, if you connect, you are that love. Secondly, we wish to express that it is within our greatest excitement to be here in this moment and co-create with you. We thank you for this.
Well, welcome, Aridif, and thank you so much for coming in and for bringing your vessel here, Rob, and his beautiful partner, Kalina. So thank you so much, and could you start us out by describing what it is like for your family where you are right now to actually watch us? Do they have screens? Do they look into their third eye? How do they join us today?
Yes, within our own race we are co-creating without external technology. All of the technology we utilize is within. When we are co-creating a connection to human collective consciousness, we are working from the area of the version of third eye within our own chakra system that is akin to yours. When we co-create that energy, we bring forward more than just the perception, more than just the visualization, but we are intimately connecting with your emotional energy, your thought process, your auric field, your mental and emotional bodies as well. In that co-creation, we are only coming to those of you that desire that co-creation, even though we are able to feel and access the energy of the entire collective consciousness. Those who are excited are the ones we co-create with the most or the strongest.
Thank you. So can you tell our audience here, give us a little description of who's here joining us today and around us in our energy fields? Just give us some fun things, some descriptions.
Yes, we understand. Each and every one of you have at very least 3 entities that are non-incarnated humans or in between incarnations that are connecting with you. There are multiple ages and variations of energies from those incarnated souls. Let us use, for instance, the entity sitting upon the farthest row in the back, all the way to the left. That energy that is co-created there is an entity that goes within your heart and throat chakra and co-creates with you. This entity pretends, or perhaps, yes, one moment, we are trying to find this word, pertains to the area of your own experience. If you go backwards, linear in time would be approximately 1400s. In that region it was a masculine being. If you go to the area of your own world, it would be the place you call southeastern China. Now, the pertaining energy of that entity does not mean that that is who that being is, but in your experience, and where both of you incarnated physically into your own lives, that energy is the co-creational method to know who this being is. When you look at your own previous incarnations, if you were matching those energies up, you would find who this entity is. There are also a great deal of what you would call extra-dimensional beings, those that are in the highest 4th density, 5th and 6th density also. All of these entities that co-create with you come for a variety of reasons. Some of those are what you would perceive as the future version of human consciousness. Some of you, what you would consider extraterrestrial. This is very dependent first upon your own perspective about what it is you are excited about, but also the perspective of your auric field and what part of your own DNA is the strongest within it. When you know that you have a connection with entities from the Pleiades region, those entities co-create with you on a much higher level. The percentage of the DNA that's activated within your physical body is at a much higher rate also. So in that essence, you would be connecting with your Pleiadian higher counterparts. And there are many Pleiadians within this room, in this moment.
Thank you very much for that.
Yes.
We had a full moon last week, and we had some other astrological alignments that brought forth some energies that if you had something within you that you still needed to clear, well, that full moon and that alignment brought that up last week for a lot of people. Could you explain from your perspective what it was that we actually went through? I know a lot of people had a hard time with some things last week.
Yes, it is a transmutation of your own belief systems that you are having problems letting go of. Most of you understand the nature of those belief systems that you want to rid yourself of, or want to release the bit of resistances that you still carry around those belief systems. This was an energetic co-creation with both the consciousness that you would perceive as the moon collective, but also the earth collective and your solar system collective consciousness. All of you who find energy behind the power of the moon to be important, you find your own perspective and time was magnified exponentially. You found your own self connecting to all of those belief systems that still hold very dear to you and those that you wish to rid yourself from. So in your own connected consciousness, you understand the importance of finding your own belief systems. And when you go through the equinox and when you go through all of the solstices, you find this same precipice of energy pushing at your own self. You find that those are the times where those belief systems that are most resistant tend to rear their ugly heads.
Well, with that being said, thank you. We have a solar eclipse coming up on our August 21st. And I've heard it described as a possible portal opening, which is always an opportunity for advancement for those humans to raise their vibrational frequency, to be able to connect through these portals, to go to higher aspects, reach higher aspects of themselves and have higher experiences, and also to unlock more portions of their DNA. But from your perspective, is there a significance of this solar eclipse that will travel across the United States, the western part towards the middle and middle eastern part of the United States on August 21st of our year, 2017?
Yes, of course, all of these alignments with what you will perceive as heavenly bodies co-create with the earth are always powerful and connected to meaning behind those energies. So when you are looking at this specific eclipse, what it is a representation of each of you having a portal within yourself. That portal is from the lower fractal consciousness to the highest fractal consciousness. This is your way to integrate more of your higher self. There is also a ley line that runs across the bottom place in where you call Africa, and this is in the southern 1/3 of the country. That major ley line also will have a great deal of energetic nature added to it. The electromagnetic energy, however you perceive this energy within the ley lines, is amplified very largely. In fact, it will run at approximately 1.7 to 2 times the strength of energy that flows within that ley line. So those who live within that part of the world will also see transmutation of their own, whether it is upon the personal level or the localized collective area.
Well, thank you for that answer.
Yes.
Aridif, in our interview on the Cosmic Awakening show, we talked about how we are creating our own reality, but at the same time, we're sharing this co-creation with others, and our reality is connected with other people's reality, and that creates the whole collective reality. I find that fascinating, and I was wondering if you could share with our new listeners a little bit about how we actually are individually creating our reality, and we see all these people in this room right now, but at the same time they could hear something that I may say differently than when I say it, because they're creating their own reality while co-creating with me, as well as being connected with the collective. Where are we doing this? How does this work, and how does it affect individual ascension?
Yes, first of all, looking into this localized collective consciousness, we will use you as an example. Over 60% of the beings within this room have incarnated upon Earth multiple times. There has been many incarnations throughout the entire format of the entire collective consciousness. Some of you come within the first iteration, where you are connecting to the Khen keys. Some of you coming in the second iteration from Atlantis consciousness, and others going into the human collective consciousness. All three of those iterations have different energies behind them, and the majority of you who have been on Earth have come from the second iteration or later. Now, that means all of your souls are connecting to the idea of being birthed in a physical body upon the Earth Collective. That's your agreement. The rest of you have come from other systems, other star systems, other dimensional systems, and in some cases other matrices, to co-create an experience with humanity, with the Earth Collective, in order to help them with their own connection process. Many of you understand that beings who are within the fifth and sixth density have already went through a similar idea of where you are at, even though the resistance that you feel is a great deal less than the majority of those in the galactic collective consciousness. It still carries a very similar experience in growing. So they give that information that they have mastered, they give that energy that they have mastered to the Earth Collective. Those of you starseeds who are not aware that you are starseeds, you are still giving that energy and information through your own chakra system. Now, when we say the ley lines, as we've expressed previously, each of you are connected to that ley line from your own crown chakra. And when you connect to that energy, you are connecting to the ley lines and the Earth, distributing your own personal energy to the rest of the collective. So, if you look at Earth being 7 billion entities, you are connecting to all but one of the division or percentage of that energy out to others. So let us say, for example, I have had a very good experience and I love this entity. You redistribute 1/7 billionth to each and every other human consciousness on Earth. That is where you see your own connection, but that is only the mechanical connection. When you see your own self in the way that you create on an individual level, this is much different. All of you are in a physical experience because that is where you desire to be. Those of you who wish to co-create on Earth, join together to say, let us do this together. Those of you who come from other systems say, we wish to join them, and all in agreement co-create. On the individual level, you are taking your own lower fractal consciousness and you are connecting it into the experience that best fits the overall growth of your oversoul. When you do this, you are separating yourself, you are taking away the memories of previous incarnations and living as the largest energy that you can inside of a physical body in the system that is between the third and fourth density of Earth. When you take that on, you connect to your higher self. Your higher self gives you guidance, it also gives you access to other energies and entities, and when that occurs, you are able to go further, even into the oversoul. When you go to the oversoul, you look for counterparts that have similar vibration frequencies and co-create with them. Even those of you who do not know you're doing it are doing it both in your awakened mind and in your sleep state. When your subconscious is expressing to you that it is time to take a stand and be happy for myself, that is the iteration from your higher fractal consciousness or co-creation with other parts of your higher self and entities connected to it. So you take all of this energy and then you redistribute that energy to others. Now, when you are looking at your own vibration, you are living in one of truly infinite amounts of probabilities. Those probabilities are when each time you make a decision in your energy, each time you create a new thought, a new belief system, or let go of an old belief system, you are shifting your vibration. So each moment you do this several thousand times, and once you co-create with another who is on the same vibrational pattern, that is where your creations come together. Those of you who can co-create with others, although those entities are not experiencing the same experience as you, are still co-creating a version of them, as there are infinite versions to co-create with. Now, we understand it can become confusing as you go through this experience because you are so attached to the nature of how you experience your experience altogether. So co-creating this idea of the twin soul would be imagined as using an example of a deck of playing cards. And by the twin soul we wish to perhaps go deeper in the definition of this, as it is different for so many humans. The twin soul is the mechanism that switches your vibrational frequency from from your experience now to the next. When you decide, yes, I want to take a right upon this street, your connection to that energy goes through your twin soul, and the twin soul gives that oversoul that part of reality that you experience. So when you are shifting through that vibration, you are butting up against those who are truly excited to co-create with you. For instance, each one of you in this room are co-creating with the versions that are most excited to co-create. So each and every one of you are connecting with the authentic nature of your own true consciousness, and not the hologrammed version that got aboard 2 hours ago or 3 hours ago and left. That energy is all of you in the forefront of your co-creation and creation. By doing this, you understand the entities across from you. Even if you do not believe or think or agree upon the same things, you always feel that feeling, deep connection. You always know that person to be an entity of connectability or desire to connect to. So in that authentic area, each of you co-create, and when you co-create with versions of entities who pass on or die, or entities who seem to drift off into your life, you are dealing with a version of them that they are not truly excited to experience. So you are given that alternate version, that mechanical version, or perhaps as you would see it, that projected version of that entity in your experience. Now we understand the longer we speak, the more questions that occur. We leave it in this moment.
Yes, so let's start with what you just ended with, which was fascinating for me. In our individual creation and our ascension process, it may be that a family member that we have has indeed either ascended or passed on in their own reality, but has co-created with us to where I manifested a version of them that was still alive in order to support me to be able to support other people. Is that a layman's term, a way of explaining what you just said?
Yes, that is one amongst many other versions. Many of you have experienced the small areas of this and larger areas, but yes, this is a perfect example of how those that you co-create with could be a projection of consciousness, one of the infinite versions that the twin soul carries, that it does not give to the oversoul for the experiencer's sake.
What are you describing as a twin soul?
Yes, first of all, you look at the entirety of the Earth collective consciousness. All of the entities in all of the oversouls co-create a physical version of the Earth itself. That is 144,000 energies. When you look at the oversouls, in their first iteration of creation of the Earth itself, they co-created a mitosis state of their own self, a divisionary state, one that becomes the exact twin of the other, hence the name twin. The version of the energy that first arrives, that divided itself in order to achieve that, is the oversoul. The other is the twin soul. The oversoul's job is to focus your reality upon what you are doing in that moment. It has many fractals of consciousness. It has many different identities within that fractal of consciousness. The twin soul is the part of your oversoul that gives all of the ample opportunities and probabilities to your experience. So let us use Rob, for instance. There are versions of Rob himself that have not stopped the utilization of drug use. And in that energy, there are versions in that deck of cards that we were using, for example, that are way off to the right, 100 feet to the right. That is far away from the vibration where he is in this moment. Where he is in this moment is the center. That card is picked up and given to the oversoul for the utilization of it in that experience. But when versions of that energy become closer, let us say, for instance, Rob would to retake drugs or re-addict himself to drugs, although we see a small probability, that energy would be closer to the center of the twin soul. And in that twin soul energy, the more close you change your vibration in the moment, the other decisions that you make, the vibrations of those that you desire to co-create with, take you through the stream of energy that is the twin soul. So although your experience is in the oversoul and the probability and opportunities are in the twin soul. They work hand in hand as one unit.
So it is most likely that your twin soul did not incarnate with you in the physical.
Yes, and now this definition of the twin soul energy is a different definition, and that is what we would call soulmates or even twin flames, and that is a different version. But this twin soul is only responsible for the mechanic nature of the probabilities that do and do not experience. Let us say, for instance, Rob is in the middle of his own twin soul, the vibration that he chose for this moment, and the version of you that he desires to co-create with is also in the center. Then both of you experience each other as you are. But when the version of you that he believes you are, that he sees you as, is further to the right than what you are, then he experiences that version of you, which is not the true you in that moment. So although it is not played out in your oversoul through your fractured consciousness, it is played out from Rob's perspective. So that authentic version of you is not co-creating directly with him, but the version that he would perceive you as. And this is why we have expressed in all relationships, there are 5 entities within that dynamic. There is the version of you that you are, the version of the person in who they are, but there is also that version of the person that you perceive them to be, and the version of yourself that they perceive you to be. Then you co-create the 5th entity with the co-creation of both of you. Now that experience can show you the dynamic of how frequently you shift. When there are arguments, why does this occur? Because the version of that person that they perceive is true to themselves is not the version you are perceiving them to be. So it is out of alignment. That is perhaps a greatest example to show you how that twin soul mechanism works.
Thank you.
Yes.
The reason I bring this up is, first of all, I just wanted to explain to our listeners and our audience how we truly are perceiving our reality and creating it differently than the way other people may see us. And also, it leads into one of the biggest questions that I am given is, what's going to happen to my family when I create my reality into a new earth? And so, thus, your family members or your loved one or your spouse or whatever may be creating their whole other reality that you're not seeing, but in your reality, they have agreed to give you a version of them that will complement you in your shifting away. Eventually, you may actually shift out of that reality because the two realities become so far apart to the left and to the right. But also, well, basically, that's why I wanted to talk about that, because people are concerned about their family members and whether they're going or not.
Yes, first of all, the version of yourself that your family will perceive is the version of you that they desire to perceive. There will be versions of yourself after you have shifted out of the physical reality that you understand as physical reality in this time. When that shift occurs fully, the versions of your family members will see it from different perspectives. Some of them will see you going out of country to work. Some of them will see you as there often, but communication becomes less and less as the years go by. Others will perceive you to die instantly in a horrible death. It depends upon that person and their own version, that 4th entity, the version of you that they perceive. Then that becomes more solidified or solid within that experience for them. But the version of them that you carry on can also experience the traveling with you. There is a version of that entity that will go to your experience with you. If you choose to take that entity on and remove some of your own beliefs about they are not vibrationally well enough or high enough, then there can be opportunities. But we understand this can be the most difficult things for humans. It is often hard to place a belief system around something that you do not see reoccurring or coming back into your perceptual experience.
Wow, we're really getting deep here. So a question that comes to mind, and I think that a lot of people would like to know, is there a collective agreement for those who are going to shift and try to shift together as a collective, what it will feel like or look like to them? Where will there be, I know we're already in the shift, we're already experiencing different timeline shifts, we're experiencing each one of us, our level of vibration based on our soul level and everything up to what we're experiencing. But will there be a moment where collectively, bam, we shift and we know that we're in a different reality?
Our perspective or our perception of all of humanity is that all of you right now are already within the fourth density consciousness, or as some of you perceive this fifth dimensional consciousness. All of you are within that boundary, but you are not perceiving that you are. The more that you let go of the definitions, that is where that energy personally will let you experience that fifth dimensional or fourth density energy. Now collectively, if all of you agree to go into that co-creation together, it can be as quickly as this moment. The shift of your own beliefs, vibrational energy, and shifting your own experiential energy, and letting go of certain, perhaps as you would see it, expressions of doubt, or perhaps as you would see it, expressions of how that will be experienced in your own mind. Letting go of those resistances will also allow you. For the most of you who go into that experience, it will be a bit slower than that. You will see it chipping away at the block, because that's how you've experienced the entirety of your life. Growth by stepping, growth by increments. And in that incremental growth, then it can appear that one day, each day getting better, it seems to be such a slow pace that one day you'll just wake up and say, yes, we have all done it. But there will be versions of you in many entities that are highly connected to that excitement to switch in that more automatic way, that will feel the instantaneous version. Now, what will that feel like when you get there? What will your fourth density true self feel like? That is something you also have to expand and evolve through. Just as we are going through the sixth density does not mean we did not start from graduating from the fifth. It has been tens of thousands of years within incremental growth steps, but each version becomes a less restricted and higher excitement version. The first part of that fifth dimensional fourth density energy that you will experience will be the letting go of the perception of communication that is limited. You will be able to communicate from a very honest and truthful place. You will be able to pick up within your telepathy. You will be able to perceive one another without having to go through the ceremonial conversation and see the true essence of oneself. At that period, there will be no one in your proximity that does not vibrate well with you, that you do not mesh with, so to say. In that energy, it will be synchronicity at its quickest pace, being able to know that the person who has just crossed your path was meant to do so because you called upon it and they answered. They see that they called upon it and you have answered. A total connection to that co-creative status that you would see as liquid synchronicity. Time will also be at shift perspective. You will start perceiving time in a much different way. The energy of linear time will still be there at the very beginning of the fourth density shift, but it will become less and less, and by the end of your fourth density journey, you will see zero time in a linear fashion. It will be all fluid. When you start thinking about your childhood, you will be in your childhood. When you start thinking about getting to the last parts of your life, you will start being that last parts of your life, and you will continue to flow, not making any normal sense in the human linear perspective. You could live inside of your own house or build a car before you had ever purchased it or built it or seen it. That style of fluidity is available to you in that moment.
Thank you.
Yes.
So how would we, if you could look into the future and see us there together, would we have, where would we live? Would we still live in houses? Would we, you said that we would be around people like-minded, like vibration. Would we start to join in community and we would be separate from other beings on the earth who are still living more in the third density, or will our version of Earth not have those third density beings anymore, and we just basically travel around spaceships and do whatever we want on Earth to find each other? How does that work?
Yes, first of all, the Earth is the same energy. The Earth itself, just as all who inhabit it, are multi-dimensional beings. So there are versions of Earth with no entities that you perceive as humans. That energy is the second density version of Earth. Then the third density with humans. And then there are the fourth, fifth, and sixth. So you will still co-create with those around you. You will still perceive those who are also in fourth density. And you can perceive those in that third density energy, if it is your excitement to do so. But the dimensional planes that are stacked upon one another vibrationally can be traversed and experienced at your own pace. If you only desire to co-create in that dimension or density, you will. If you desire to look, perhaps as you would see it, down one step in vibration to the third density version of Earth, you would also be able to do this. But if you are looking at raw experience, that would be where you are co-creating. Some of you will live in houses, others will live in the middle of a forest, some of you not using anything to cover yourself, and some of you never sleeping at all. It is strictly up to the individual consciousness to guide their own path. Just as you do here in creating physical experience, you will do there, but much larger of a scale. When the co-creation happens, breaking into the technology, first internally, then creating external technology, then by the middle of the fourth density experience, you will be able to utilize that versions of technology. There are many races that are helping you do so in this moment. The more that you fit the vibration of a fourth density being, the more that those entities that are perceived as extra dimensionals and terrestrials will help you with that technology, as well as the expansion of the mind of the scientists that are human. All of that will be co-created together, and it will continue to grow. That version of the Earth that is a full fourth density is an experience that is just as your most synchronicities upon this level, but amplified versions. So when you desire to put your mind into something, you will experience it to the full degree. And anything you do not desire to connect with, you will not perceive in an exponential degree.
Thank you. Do you guys like my questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and take a few of your questions. They can be personal, they can be about the shift, be about the new Earth, they can be about anything. And I just ask that you speak loud enough for Aridif to hear you. Who's first? Yes.
Aridif, I'm getting I have been very weary of the pain and suffering. And I'm at times not able to reconcile the ends, to the means. Perhaps it's my perspective, but could you guide me in a different perspective on this, please?
Yes, first of all, when you are speaking of pain, are you speaking directly of the emotional or mental pains that are occurring?
Yes, that and the physical pains, but yes, mostly the psychological pain. A lot from my own experience, from my childhood, and I have healed myself, my past lives, my ancestors, but still some lingers to interfere with my total happiness.
Yes, we understand. When you first deal with this energy, we suggest that only the perspective of your experience can change the overall experience, the belief systems that you carry. You have let go of a great deal of resistance in your belief systems. You have opened up your own energy, chakras, and expanded your higher self in order to achieve the greatest version. We congratulate you for this, but we also express that you are not done growing as a human being. Any human being that is alive is still growing and expanding. What we suggest from our perspective that will be the greatest benefit to you is look around not the versions of your belief systems or experiences from the past, but look at how to see yourself more so in the now. Although you are defining yourself through a variation of past experiences and other persons' perspectives, you are truly your own entity in each moment, just as we've expressed previously that the twin soul can be shifted or swiped through multiple thousands of times in 1 second. So can you as your lower fractal consciousness. The integration of the highest fractal consciousness is important, so open yourself to let guidance come within. But more than anything that you could experience, the understanding of yourself in the now moment and retraining your belief systems about who you are in the now is very important. We've expressed this previously, that you yourself in this moment is 1 gallon of liquid consciousness. When you start thinking and defining yourself by versions of the past, be it in previous incarnations or this incarnation, you have now taken 1/4 of the gallon and placed it into the past. Then you start worrying about what is next, what is in the future. Should I be worried about this and that, what bill to pay? Now you have taken another 1/4 and placed it out into the future. Then, in the moment when you are feeling emotionally distressed, and start beating upon yourself for it, or start questioning, why does this negative energy feel so heavy, and why am I doomed to this version? Then you are taking another 1/4 of the glass and throwing it upon the air. You are left only with 1/4 of your full energy. When you need to manifest an energy, you must have all of yourself there to manifest. So what we suggest is start focusing upon the now moment more than any other moment. Do not worry about tomorrow or the next moment. Do not worry about your past as it pertains to your experience in the moment. Although you can look into your past to see your experiences and to learn from those, do not place your mental or emotional body. Do not allow that to define the person you are in this moment. And the more of that energy you place into being the truest version of yourself in that one moment, the more you'll find that all of those previous engagements in all of your emotions dealing with your heart chakra and 3rd chakra and first will dissipate quickly. There will still be resistances from certain levels of trauma. Each of you carry trauma in your DNA from your ancestors. So there is always a small percentage, but opening yourself to that now moment can even flush away the versions of trauma in your DNA.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Aridif, thank you for being here. I have personally been, I'm an artist and I haven't been creating, and it almost feels like there's this womb-likeness quality to it. And I'm next year planning on going to a Tibetan sound school, and sound is coming back. But I'm wondering kind of how this is all fit together, and the art feeling like it's kind of almost in a womb space where I find myself not, I've always resisted making, but it's really become even more so that way. And so I wondered if you could say something about that, please.
Yes, first of all, that womb state feeling that pertains to your art, you yourself in certain aspects are doing the same thing with yourself. There are versions of yourself, not that you have not let bloom, but you feel as if you are protecting, you are holding it close. The energies around your 1st and 2nd chakra, looking into that energy more deeply, and not just the sexuality as most humans perceive that 2nd chakra to be, but the version of masculine and feminine energy that all of you have, and the balance of that energy within yourself. Looking at how much masculine energy to bring in any one given moment, and how much feminine energy to bring in, can be a true opening of the 2nd chakra. Then working with that feeling of safety that womb holds for a reason. It holds because there is parts that fear the exposure to the world, not only to the art itself or to the aspects of yourself, but also in how the world will perceive it. The fear that it will be rejected, just as the parts of yourself, the aspects that you hold dear and hold hidden in some moments. Working at your action mechanism is very important. And your first, second, and third chakra are all directly correlated to your action mechanism. Going through an experience, all that we can express to you that can allow you perhaps some feeling of safety is that practicing your actions will help ease up that energy of resistance. When you feel like taking a walk, do not wrestle with yourself mentally or emotionally. Get your shoes on and head out the door. When you feel as if you need to cry, but there are strangers around and you do not wish to cry in front of them, cry anyway. The more that you act upon those great excitements or feelings of desire within you, the quicker you will find your second chakra allowing to co-create with the third and first at a much higher rate. This is part of being within the human experience, to feel that there are certain parts of yourself that need to be guided, but it does not have to be, and all of you now are growing out of it. Even as we have spoken from the very beginning of this interaction, we feel a lifting upon majority of the energy within the hearts and first chakras, within the entire room collective. So going into your expressions of affection, but more so the affection for yourself, will help move that energy even more so. We thank you for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in the back, please speak up, please.
Arden, my family history, there hasn't been a male Episcopal that's lived past the age of 65 in my family tree. Do I have to expect that same outcome?
We understand that this is a history within your own perspective and a great tradition within a history of the family lineage, but no, you do not have to succumb to this. But your choices within your own health, your choices in how to deal with your physical body can also play a great part. When you hear that something is negative for your body that could cause cancer or kill you, and you yourself know that everyone within the Earth Collective expresses this, so it is an energy that is tied to you, and still do that, it does affect the body in a negative way. Working with your belief systems about how to co-create a more healthy experience and to elongate the version of your body that is in alignment with who you are, and what excites you the most will be the highest probability in order to reenact the version of separating yourself from that history in your family. Going through that experience is most definitely probable within your experience, but showing excitement about passing that version, acting upon that excitement, and the deep examination of your belief systems around that beliefs and excitement are most definitely the way to gain probability and to surpass that age. We thank you.
I'm going to give you a few moments to think about a question while I ask a question on Rob's behalf. So Aridif, I worked on Rob's knee yesterday, giving love and energy. Can you please explain to Rob why he's having that knee issue and what he needs to let go of in order to have a reconstructive knee without having to have surgery?
Yes, first of all, Rob's own physical body is out of alignment with the way he perceives it should be. He perceives himself as not fully healthy, as overweight. That lends to the injury of the knee. It also adds to the resistance against healing it. There are first chakra issues that he has dealt with for several months as it pertains to his son and the custody around his son. Ones that he knows that he was out of alignment with, that we have spoken to him about, that are just starting to clear. The more energy of those beliefs of safety, the more ideals around the safety of his son's overall health that is allowed to be released from him, the more that first chakra energy will clear. Once the first chakra energy around his son and around his own health start healing at a higher degree, he will notice that no surgery be needed.
Thank you. How does that pertain to his knee, please?
Yes, the leg is the extension of the first chakra, when you see your first chakra energy, it grounds into the earth through your legs. Your feet, when it connects to the ground, is the way you bring earth energy back into your physical body. So it is, as you would perceive, halfway between his root chakra and the earth itself. Or some entities perceive it as the low root chakra. But all things within, from the anus area at the very bottom of the tailbone to the bottom of your feet, when injured, are directly in correlation with the resistance of the first chakra energy.
Thank you. So his body's actually serving him by providing the pain to remind him that he has imbalanced energy in his chakra. Now that he knows this, could you please work on that knee and as far as the pain, and lessen the pain so that he may be able to lift his son when he needs to, please?
Yes, we have given him permission to utilize our own energy. We do not take our energy and place it into Rob's knee and heal it in that way, because it is his own free will to do so, if he desires. And we have offered this for several months. He has not always taken the opportunity, as his own mind becomes perhaps engaged in day-to-day life experience. So the more that he reminds himself, as Kalina does so well for him, to connect to our energy and to bring it in through his own ceremony of healing, then it can become our own energy that helps to co-create the healing for him. But he is within the driver's seat for his own body, and we do not directly intervene or interfere unless we are asked to co-create an experience that is similar to this.
Thank you. And everyone here can do that with their own higher self and guidance as well.
Yes, with your higher self, as we would call the higher fractal consciousness, with your oversoul fractals, and with your guides, yes.
Kalina, do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Oh, regarding Rob's knee?
Anything.
Because I've probably tortured Aridif with tons of
Okay,
questions
you
on
probably,
that
you
one.
get to torture Aridif more than most people. No, based on anything that we've talked about, I'll come back to you if you have anything that you think would.
Well, you kind of touched upon it. I noticed that a lot of people have been talking about, they keep calling it the event.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I wanted to actually do a video in the near future on. And you guys kind of already touched upon it. Aridif, was there anything more you wanted to add upon that? Because there was something about that didn't quite entirely resonate with me based on some of the, I'm not going to throw names out, there's so many people that talk about it, because I already feel we're already in the fifth dimension, you know. It's just, I feel like we kind of recreate the 3D realities, and we're kind of new at this, you know what I mean? But I can also honor and see how people feel the shift, because I do feel like there's so many multiple realities and so many multiple Earths. There's so much confusion, and I think it'd be wonderful if we could have more clarity on what the shift is. I mean, what the event is.
Yes, we understand.
Yes.
There are multiple perspectives of what that event is. Some are based in fear, some are based in destruction of the world, others are based into perhaps a lighter version where you are able to ascend into full density. All of those energies are valid. Those who create within themselves about the version of Earth where they must all die through large catastrophe in order to shift can experience, and if their beliefs are truly in alignment with themselves, that is the version they will experience. The version, as you all have talked about within this day, about going into a resistance-free transition, can also occur. The version of you that is excited to co-create that with one another, but more so created for yourself, can and will experience that version if your excitement is elevated enough, if your belief systems do not carry resistance about it. So in that different versions of the event that you have heard, and all of the different lack of resonance, it's because those versions are not in alignment with yourself in the moment. You understand also the nature of the experience of being in the fourth density and fooling yourself that you are in the third density, which creates a very fun opportunity for you to play with infinite versions of what the change could be or what that event could be. So playing with that in your own mind will also help you find what you do and do not align with, and the things that lack resonance to you are not because they are not true. It is because it is not the experience that is most likely or most probable to be created with you.
Thank you. Can I remind you to drink some water?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Aridif, is Kalina's higher self there with you now?
Yes, the higher fractalized consciousness, as well as many of the entities that are perceived as her guides.
Can I take this moment, please, to ask Kalina's higher self if she would like to share a message with our group today through you? Is that possible? And does she want to?
Yes, with her lower fractal consciousness permission, we will move forward with the connection to an entity that is within a higher guidance.
Oh, yes, you have my permission. Absolutely.
Yes, one moment, we will connect you. So many of you have others that have told you what you should be, and sometimes other beings, they come into your life so you shift your personality just a little bit so that you can fit in better or be less awkward around them. And I understand why that occurs. I spend time with Kalina and Rob and many other humans that I have been able to, and I see that. But the version of yourself that's happy and that's true to your heart, it only expresses itself when you're able to not judge yourself. And I feel that this group and this time is important to talk about how not to judge yourself. There are ways that many of you are doing it right now and don't even know it. Rob says, I'm overweight and not fully healthy, and he's just judged himself. How much energy did he put with that? His own physical body reacting to what he's thinking. And how many of you have said, I'm not always a nice person, and later that day you get in an argument with your loved one. The energies and the tales that are told, I just want to drive as deeply home to all of you as I can that you are worthy of the love that you get from others, and you are worthy of the love you give yourself. That love from the self is very important too. I want to thank you, Kalina, dear, as it is always wonderful to speak to you.
Yes.
And I want to thank all of you for allowing me to speak for that moment.
I love you so much, Darlene.
Thank you, Darlene. You got the chance to speak at a conference. Thank you for being here. And may I please speak with Aridif again?
And it is wonderful for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We are back without hesitation or delay yet again. This is Aridif.
That was freaking awesome. Thank you, Aridif.
Yes.
Who's next? In the back? Yes. Please.
Yes, since the death of my husband 2 years ago, as the shock of it has worn off, I have felt increasingly disoriented and lost. Even things I love are foreign to me now. And I expect, I have faith that will pass, but I look for some advice, some comfort in this darkness.
Yes, of course, we wish to reiterate yet again that you are loved, and we understand that this experience is one of the most painful or difficult experiences for human experience to feel, the loss of those that are deeply, intimately connected with you. So for that, we wish to give you our own love also. Secondly, what we can express to you is you are not fully done with shock wearing off. As much as you have thought you are, there is still a great deal that occurs within your subconscious, unconscious minds that is boiling to the surface in different ways from your different experiences. The reason you feel as if everything around you is shifted, that you have become ungrounded, is because your husband was the grounding energy with your co-creative fifth entity in your relationship. Learn to ground within your own self, and we understand, you know that you are able to, because this is the experience that you had before connecting with your husband, before that intimate relationship started. That fifth entity that you co-create with, that version where both of you are one entity. Once ripped away from that experience, it is a deep and painful concept. So what we can express to is be gentle with yourself, be understanding with yourself, be forgiving with yourself. When you feel as if you do not wish to walk outside for the day, do not walk outside for that day, and don't beat yourself up for it. Do not worry about how others perceive you or what stage of loss that they feel you should be at. Understand yourself and ground yourself. That will help the energy flow in a faster way. What can you do to ground yourself? Well, as all of you have already expressed, eating is one way, but not always the suggested way to ground energy. What we can tell you will be useful. Find very small excitements at first. Crossword puzzles, things that normally you did not do, because just as you have iterated, all the things in your life that were important are less important. Find something new. Put 50 things in a written form and put it into a cup, and each morning take that new version out of the cup, read it, and no matter what, before you go to bed, do that one thing. One day you will find you have created a great experience of excitement around that energy, even if for nothing more than to distract you away from the emotional energy you are feeling. Now, we never would say distract yourself or remove yourself from emotions. Those emotions are very important for you. But that first diversion leads into the experience of excitement. It lets you be with yourself and ground yourself fully enough for you to start utilizing that version of energy and create a larger experience with yourself. Remind yourself that although we understand and know that you yourself understand that he is still with you, just in a different version, remind yourself that the co-creation that you've spent with this entity is still implanted in you. And the more that you ground yourself and let yourself release that resistance, the more of the positive nature of that experience will come back to you. We wish to express to you that you are loved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'd like to bring up a topic, we talked about earlier. And this is a topic that relates, I think, for everybody. It deals with that currency stuff. Recently, we've come into this, people are getting involved with finding out about these Treasury direct accounts, and that we're trying to figure out a way of accessing this money that we're supposedly all of us have when we're born into this incarnation. And I feel that with this, I'm not sure if we're all going about it in the right way, and I wanted to get your thoughts on what we're doing, because there are some people recently that trying to set the precedent and found themselves in a little bit of trouble.
Are you familiar with this Aridif?
Yes, we understand enough about it to speak on this energy. Now, we understand what you are speaking of. Now, many entities who are trying to find creative ways to separate themselves from that version of slavery, as it feels like to yourselves that you are in, financially, energetically, etc. So as you are going through this experience, we ask you to look at first your beliefs. Yes, you are in slavery of financial system. You are in slavery of the co-creation, of working your day-to-day jobs and being forced, in your perspective, to do something not wanted to be done. When we perceive it, we perceive that you are making an agreement, not only speaking in your higher fractal consciousness, not only in your subconscious, but directly agreeing with your own lower fractal conscious mind to do so. All of you are capable of learning to grow your own food. All of you are capable of learning to build your own places. And we understand the land that you buy must be taxed, but there are different places within the world. All of you could get creative if you desired and find a way to completely disassociate yourself with any government entity or any entity who desires to do this. But this is not feasible for all of you. Many of you have taken on children. Many of you have taken on those that co-create with you, wives, husbands, etc. And there must be a financial abundance for them also. So what we suggest is, if you are in the position to separate yourself as much from those systems that do enslave you, do so. If not, co-create an experience of your own abundance by doing what you desire to do. All of you have an excitement, whether it is music, whether it is dancing, whether it is singing. Even if you feel you are not good enough at them or good at them at all, you still have excitements. Look through your belief systems and find which excitement is most likely and most exciting to create abundance flow within my own energy. All of you have something that you are able to do that can produce money, but the belief systems around those energies can be difficult. Often you experience those feelings of enslavement in your work because you're desiring to have the experience of feeling what that day-to-day work life feels like, so that you can enjoy your freedom more so when you get more of it. Some of you experience that as an excuse not to be within the same household as the rest of your family for several hours a day. Now, in each of your existences, look at your belief systems deeply. Look at where the resistances around financial, income, and work go. This is always our perspective, as we do not perceive the physical nature of your reality as deeply as you do. We are looking at all of the energy that surrounds that energy. We know there are entities who desire to enslave you financially, in some cases even more so, to take away freedoms of your physical safety, and that this can be troubling. But we also know that many entities who dive into that energy and have great fear about it create more of that energy around them at all times. So face this when you are safe enough within your own mind and heart to truly be honest with yourself and dig deeply in those belief systems. Finding that version of abundance or money that comes inward in a creation as part of your own excitement or some stream of your alignment with an excitement can be the greatest way to, as you would say, kill two birds with one stone, although we do not find that saying appropriately connecting to the idea. But as you go forward with that idea, do so. Find your belief.
Okay, I have a little follow-up question.
Yes.
So are you saying that if enough people get excited about accessing their Social Security money out of this treasury fund, that is something that we can create in our reality?
Yes, this amongst many things. If 1/10 of the population of the country in which you inhabit in this moment were to start buying fuel, start buying groceries, and start growing it in their own homes, all of the systems that are billionaires, all of the entities would have to dissipate to some degree. And then when they start back up again, they will know that you have much more power than they do. So there are many different iterations of this into your collective consciousness. The energy that you have expressed verbally is one of them.
Thank you.
Yes.
Aridif, is Rob's knee in pain? I can give the medicine if you need for help.
No, it is fine now. Although it is in some pain, it is much less than what he requires for us to disconnect or to take the energy of ibuprofens.
Okay.
Yes.
We have time for one or two more questions. Yes, in the back, please speak loudly.
Yes, my question is, I came here in this lifetime as a galactic hybrid, and the ability to interface with everyone as a collective, to bring the heart to all fields in connection to the new earth. By experiencing this, there has been many stops in the process as we go through the ability to transcend all dimensional spaces. The merge, I believe, is here. We are acting as if it's not. We are being a creation of stop when we see ourselves as being driven by a financial system or any other system. This is the reality of what I would call inner earth. Inner earth exists for me in the, for the collective, in the heart. Is this your interpretation?
Yes, first of all, we do see that you are what you would perceive as a grid worker, meaning that when you are connecting to the grid, as every human individual does, or even those of you who are not human but inhabiting human bodies, each of you pump out, as we've expressed previously, 1/7 billionth of the energy. With those of you that are grid workers, you are pumping out upwards 10 times more than the average human consciousness to feed that energy into your localized grid patterns. So as you are doing this, you yourself personally have seen many ups and downs of energy. You have also expressed that when you perceive those different stop versions, that your own energy desires to move forward. What we can suggest to you, first of all, before jumping into the idea of our own perspective, we must express to you that when you are going so hard that you have not allowed yourself time and energy for yourself, although the collective reaps certain rewards from that extra energy, you yourself are not running on full capacity. You are not pumping that up to 10 times energy out. So if you are able to take those breaks in the time that you desire to take just for one moment, even if it is 30 seconds just breathing and recentering, or if it is 2 or 3 weeks of relaxation for nothing but yourself, that can build your consciousness back to the full 10 times potential of energy that you output. So collectively, it is much greater. We wish to express that to you specifically because we see that in your energy. Now, as we perceive it, the version of inner earth has many different versions from most human consciousnesses. Almost 90% of all human consciousness we have ever spoken to has not had the same version of inner earth. For the version that we perceive will depend upon the version of the person that we are seeing. You yourself and your fractal consciousness have chose to see that inner earth as the version of your heart and expansion. So that experience is more not just real to you, but also probable to you. That version of your expansion showing others also in something that both myself, Treb Bor Yit NE, and Rob are all able to see within your own energy being grid work, means that at least 4 of us agree that you are a grid worker. In that energy, by pumping out more of that energy of your desire to move forward, it redistributes that to those around you. When you get more of those entities to co-create with you, then they are pumping out more of that energy. So what you are doing, continuing that desire to move forward, continuing to express that version of your heart as the central earth, or the earth center, that will be what gives you your fastest pathway to it, by being excited, speaking of it, sharing it with those who also resonate, and start creating with those entities individually. Now we understand that has taken care of itself for the most part with you. That is what you've done. You've spoken, you have been excited. Continue doing it. You are doing just fine. And we thank you for this.
Thank you. What I would like to do, Aridif, is ask you to please guide us in a very short meditation to bring energy to not only Detroit, this area, which I was guided to come here to join with these people, and those in the audience that would like to join us in their heartfelt intentions on expanding love to Detroit and then expanding it from there into the grid system of the earth. I would be honored if you would lead us into something very short and sweet today.
Yes, of course. First of all, we must ask a question to all of you. How many of you know what Michigan looks like when you are looking at it from a map?
Yes.
Is that all of you?
Yes.
Yes, right here. Visualize within your own mind. First of all, we must close our eyes physically. Closing your eyes will allow you to be with yourself a bit more. Remove stimulus around you. Breathing in your nose very deeply, filling up your lungs and stomach with air, and breathing out of your mouth in the same capacity, slow and steady. Now, relax your physical body a bit, relax your legs, your hips, your stomach and chest and shoulders, and neck and head. Relax. Each breath out represents letting go. Must be centered in order to push energy into anything, in order to take energy or give energy, must be in that neutral energy. And what is neutrality more than relaxation? So, now you are all relaxed. We want you to visualize where the area of Detroit is on the map. We want you to encircle the city in your mind as if you are tracing a line over the city of Detroit. Now we want you to expand that out approximately 3 times. So the very center of your circle, 3 times larger than the city of Detroit, and the downtown regions right in the middle of that circle. We want you to visualize this, and you can do it as a map or you can do it as the city, as long as it is focused upon Detroit. You can even have the word Detroit in the middle of that circle, as long as you are focusing. Those of you who cannot see in your third eye, just going through the motions in your mind is enough. So focus on that energy for 1 moment. When you're breathing in, we want you to visualize or feel the breathing in of white energy. It is an energy from all things around you, the Earth Collective, the things that you perceive as not alive or living, the first density beings, elementals, plant life, the entities next to you. Breathe all of the white light that all gives you. And we want you to breathe that into your heart chakra. And as you breathe out, we want you to put that in that place you have visualized in your mind, in the very center of that circle, that white light. And we want you to breathe in again, white light into your heart. The breath out is the white light to that part you visualized, center of the circle. Now we want you to breathe in white light, and this time you are taking the white light and putting it through the circle. You are putting it through the area of Detroit, going 33 meters deep into the ground with the white light. And all of that energy goes through that area of Detroit, through your 2-dimensional part that you perceive Detroit, and 33 meters deep into the ground. And breathing in the white light and breathing out the white energy. 33 meters deep in the ground, and let it go out into the earth. Now we have created an energetic circuit. We have connected your heart to Detroit, to the earth. Your own self, your crown chakra, will allow the redistribution to the grid system, while the grounding through Detroit allows the energy. Whenever you desire to send love to Detroit or any other place geographically on your globe, utilize this meditation. The longer you do it, the better it works, the more energy you are sending. Now that all of you sit collectively, you are sending much more than your separate energies combined. If you were to add up, let us say each of you get a 5 out of 5 for the day. And all of you have added that. And collectively, there is a multiple of 5 that is at hand at that period. Take that number and times it by over 9 itself. You have just enhanced the energy of that energy by being a collective. We always suggest that the last breath you take, as it pertains to the giving of energy, then on your breath out, send green energy instead of the white. This gives your final goodbye kiss to the area that you desire, energetically speaking, your love kiss to that area, and make sure it makes its way 33 meters deep to the ground. You are letting the circuit know it can continue on without you. It can be a part of the natural circuitry of Detroit or any other area that you wish. We thank you for this.
Thank you very much, Aridif, and thank you for everyone for joining us in this meditation. Aridif, it's been my great pleasure to host you today, and I would like to connect with you sometime in the future again.
Yes, of course. We have already connected you several times since the time that we have spoken through Rob's physical body. So we wish to thank you also.
Thank you.
We wish to express to all of you that we will bid you adieu for this evening, but before bidding you adieu, reiterate the very first thing and very first point that we've expressed from the very beginning of our communication. You are loved. Adieu.
Adieu. Welcome back.
How'd it go?
It went great. It went great. We did a great meditation at the end. We asked some excellent questions, and we've helped to send some love and healing energies to many in the audience today, and for those listening on the recording.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear.
How are you feeling?
I'm here.
Good.
I'm still putting words together a little slow, but it'll come.
I want to thank you for joining us here, Cosmic Awakening Show live in Detroit, Rob. And would you please share with everyone, if you can bring the words, how they could contact you or find your website, please?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. If you know how to spell my name, robgauthier.com, or etwhisper is probably the easiest.com.
So Rob Gauthier, GAUTHIER.com, or even easier, etwhisper.com.
Yeah, all of our relevant information's on there, and our YouTube channel has all of our stuff. We've got like 240 videos because we want people to be able to access stuff. Official ET Whisper YouTube channel.
Well, if everyone enjoyed this today, please give some appreciation and love.
Thank you all for your support here on Patreon. We will keep this type of unseen content coming your way. We love you guys with all our heart. Rob and Kalina. Come see our website, etwhisper.com.